Chapter 25, Beautiful Creature. About 33 hours into the trip and no more interruptions from Dappa, it had been a quiet ride. With the book missing, I contemplated using my phone to search the internet for a digital copy, but Electra's anger toward her aunt probably wouldn't allow me to read. The resentment lay deep inside me. I didn't know how she was going to get past this, but it would lose who she was as my soul. She needed to be true to herself and stay at her strongest. Our focus was finding the tree and saving the Star Children from any more harm. The quiet ride gave me a chance to reflect on the baby. Was it going to be good, or would it choose evil like its father? I planned to show him love and affection, hoping that would be enough. We drove deep into the woods of California. The further in we went, the more the paved paths turned to rocks, then dirt and leaves. Zeke pulled over, and Evan parked behind us. I opened the door and stepped out to take a deep breath of fresh air while stretching my arms. The woodsy air was more of a pine smell, maybe a hint of lavender and vanilla mixed. It reminded me of the candles my Aunt Deborah used to burn. Everyone stretched as they stepped out of the cars. "It is a bit of a walk from here," Evan said. "Make sure your flashlights have batteries. The sun won't be rising for another hour." We gathered the guns and bags, checking the supplies one last time before we left on this long hike. I attached a belt with water tubes in my knife holster. Then I double knotted the laces on my boots and adjusted my hair. Mike pulled the straps tighter on his backpack, which held the extra ammo, and we were ready. "Scotty and his crew will meet us at a camp before we hike to the tree. He knows the woods better than anyone," Evan added. I turned to Mike. "I wonder if that's the same Scotty we worked with at the post office." "Maybe," he said. "I lost touch with him years ago." Deeper into the woods we went, the sounds of crickets echoing throughout. The moon was full, and fog was slowly moving through the air. It was tangibly thick, making it hard to see more than 10 feet. Suddenly a gunshot went off. I ducked down and gripped my AK-47, aiming into the foggy forest. We shot into thick air, but it was hard to see down the scope. While trying to focus on what was shooting at us, a man grabbed me from behind and pulled me away. I dropped my gun, wiggled free from his grip, spun around, punched him in the face, and threw energy at his chest. He flew backward and disappeared through the clouds of fog. Now I could hardly see 5 feet in front of me as the fog seemed to get worse. My hand throbbed with pain from the punch. Guns were still going off. I could hear the fighting between the trackers and Sap. I shouted for Mike in my thoughts, but he didn't respond. Moving my hands on the ground with my hands, attempting to find a needle in a haystack, I wondered, where's my gun? I heard something coming in my direction, but saw nothing. I pulled my knife out and crouched low with the knife pointing forward. The man jumped forward through the fog, and just as I was about to swing it, I realized it was Evan. He grabbed my arm and leaned down to my face. "Amber, we have to go." He stepped forward while pulling me away. "I'm not leaving without Mike," I shouted. "There's no time. We have to get you to safety." Running as fast as my body let me, I wasn't even sure where to go in this pathless forest. The light from the full moon was barely peeking through the thick fog, forcing me to stumble with my hands in front. I could feel the knobby tree roots under my feet, and I tried not to roll my ankle with every step. After a minute running, I stopped to catch my breath and pressed my back against a tree. Evan leaned beside me as he was breathing just as harshly. "We need to find the others," I pleaded. "And we will," he assured me. I was about to tap into Mike's thoughts, but suddenly a tracker snuck up on Evan. "Evan!" I shouted. The tracker swung his fist at Evan, punching him. I took a step back, but slipped on a tree root, causing me to fall backward. A shriek squealed out of my mouth. Instead of falling straight to the ground, I rolled down a slope. My body hit branches and slid on leaves, trying to grab something, a tree, a rock, anything. I continued to coast down the hill. I felt scrapes down my hips and legs. The attempt to pull the brakes wasn't working, and I accepted that I had to ride this out until the hill was no more. Once I hit the bottom and lay flat on my back, I stared at the dark sky while feeling the pain shooting through my body. The fog began to thin out, and the moon was full. A cluster of stars twinkled brightly. The noise of the gunshots stopped, and I heard faint whispers coming from the night sky, but I ignored them, and my attention shifted to my stomach. How did I know if the baby was well? With my hand on my belly, I asked for a sign that the baby was safe. I closed my eyes, and suddenly a bright white light pierced them. When I opened them, to my surprise, the forest was gone, and I was standing in a dark, narrow hallway with dim lights on the wall. The carpet was red, and the ivory walls shone with gold trim. Where am I? Walking toward me was a little boy, no older than 5. His curly hair was blonde with shimmering gold streaks. He had a beautiful smile with soft, pale skin. I leaned down to ask him, "Where am I?" He pointed to my belly, and then it clicked. I knew who this little boy was, the sign I asked for to know if the baby was alive. He was the baby, my son. I was having a little boy. The young boy took his right hand and tapped my forehead ever so slightly. A memory appeared of my husband and me making love just a week before the incident with Jasper, and then it was all made clear. The white light pierced my eyes once again, and when I opened them, I was back in the forest. My hand rested on my stomach, and I felt relieved knowing my son was Mike's child. This was the first time I felt the love, the link of the unbreakable bond. At this very moment was when I realized I was going to be a mother. My husband would be a father. We were a family, and no one was going to take this baby away from us. What once was 1, now was 3, complete at 1. I needed to find him right away to tell him the good news. Attempting to stand up, I quickly realized my ankle was throbbing pretty bad. This was a sprain. The minor bruises over my body didn't compare to the agony in my ankle. My hand began the healing process. After 15 seconds, the stinging was no more, but my energy level was low. The rest of my body would have to wait. I needed to figure out where everyone was and drink some water. When I reached for the water tubes on my belt, I realized they were gone. They must have come off during my tumble. In front of me was a small river flowing downstream. I wobbled over to the water and reached down, splashing it on my face once, and then took a sip to replenish my energy. Excuse me. "Evan, Mike," I shouted. No answer. The gunshots were no more, and the fog had let up. I splashed the water on my face one more time, and something caught my eye across the river. 2 glowing yellow eyes and the shadow of a creature. I must have hit my head from the fog. Now I was seeing things. I rubbed my eyes forcefully, blinking a few times before I took a closer look. Is it what I thought it was? This wasn't an illusion. It was a rare, wild gray wolf standing silently still. His coat of fur shimmered with beauty from the moonlight. Most of the wolves in California live in sanctuaries. Very few migrate through these woods. I didn't see any others, which were unusual. Wolves traveled in packs. This magnificent creature continued to stare me down. The eyes glowed a brighter gold color, yet my fear stayed in check. My heartbeat was staying steady. The glow had my attention, and I didn't unlock my eyes. Is this wolf special like me? Could animals be star children or star seeds? This opened up a whole new curiosity for me, many questions rolling through my mind. Suddenly, someone grabbed my shoulder, breaking my connection. I jumped up quickly and screamed. "Amber, it's me," Mike whispered. "Oh, Mike, thank God." I wrapped my arms around him tightly. For a split second, time went still, and his warm embrace numbed me from all the bruising. "Did you see?" I paused. The beautiful creature was gone. My scream must have scared him. "See what?" he asked. I changed my thoughts. The rest of the crew." "No," he answered. "The fog was so thick, and I got jumped by a tracker." I was with Evan, but we separated when a tracker attacked him. Clumsy me tripped and fell down that cliffside over there. I lost my gun during the attack. The fog made it too hard to see anything. Blood dripped down his forehead and his lip. "Your face," I said as I inspected it. "It's just a scratch," he assured me. Obviously, it was more than a scratch. He noticed marks on my face. "Are you and the baby okay?" Mike examined my body. I smiled, excited to show him. "We're fine. I need to show you something." I held his right hand, placing it on my stomach with my hand on top of his. My eyes closed, and I asked the baby to show him. The little one showed him the truth. Mike opened his eyes. His face contorted as though he was struggling not to cry, but not sad tears. These were tears of joy. The boy was our son. God had given us a miracle baby. Not an ounce of evil moved through his blood. "We're having a boy," Mike said. Our excitement to become parents to our first child together had us completely forgetting the battle occurring. Suddenly, a man shouted off in the distance. "There they are!" "Run," Mike yelled. He grabbed my hand and pulled me down the side of the river. We heard a gunshot go off in our direction. They missed us as we dodged the bullets, not even sure where we were running to. Realizing with every shot they somehow were missing, I thought it was as if they aren't trying to kill us, forcing us to dart in this direction, almost like a trap. Suddenly, Mike grabbed my arm and stopped me from taking another step. Down below was roughly a 40-foot drop into a pool of water. Deja vu hit. Mike surveyed the area, trying to figure out what to do. We turned around to see the trackers approaching us fast. Any step back and we'd fall into the water. He tapped into my thoughts. This was just like my dream. He nodded and I nodded back. I took Mike's hand to connect, focusing all the energy flowing through our bodies to emerge out of our hands. With all our might, white sparks left our fingertips, passing in the air toward a tree just off to our left. Our telekinetic powers grabbed onto the large tree. Strenuous energy exhausted my body from pulling as hard as we could. Tree roots ripped from the ground. It fell just in front of the trackers, forcing them to come to a halt. With both of us crippled from all the running and depleting our telekinesis capabilities, Mike took the bag off his back and tossed it aside. I unclipped my belt and dropped it to the ground. We turned back around, looked at each other, knowing our only option was to jump. Ready? He asked. I shook my head. No, I don't think I can. Fear overwhelmed me. My breathing grew flooded and desperate. He put both hands on my shoulders. Hey, we got this. We do it together. I heard the trackers coming around the side of the tree. No other choice but to jump. We took a few steps back. Forever love? He asked. Forever love, I repeated back. We took a few quick steps forward and jumped as hard as we could while taking a deep breath in. The fall was roughly 40 feet down and fast, but it felt like slow motion as the air was hitting my face and hair. I braced myself for an intense impact. Bam! Affliction shot through my body as soon as I hit the water. While floating super still under the cool water, my body froze, time stopped, and everything went numb. Knowing my lungs needed air, I felt a heavy weight on my chest, hindering me from finding the surface. Suddenly, I opened my eyes, and the water surrounding my body absorbed through my skin. The cool water became warmer by the second. The energy returned, and it released the weight. The numbness was no longer there, and the emotions flooded through me from head to toe, almost like an information overload. Sadness, anger, jealousy, admiration, shame, joy, and just before my fear kicked in, my dove necklace pulled upward. While watching my necklace attempt to float up, I gazed beyond the gold pendant to see Mike swimming to the surface. I was running out of air and maneuvering with every ounce left of liveliness inside, kicking back and forth. The second I popped my head out of the water, my mouth opened and air filled my lungs. Amber, Mike asked. Yeah, I'm here, I said. We quickly swam to the edge of the water, pulling ourselves out, sitting on the hard surface, attempting to slow our hearts down. The sun was beginning to rise. The men were no longer at the top of the waterfall. I wasn't sure how much time we had until they find a way down here. Mike grabbed my arm. Did you feel what I felt? Mike asked. He'd experienced the same thing, which may have saved our lives. I nodded and assessed my wounds and bruises. They were all healed. Mike's face didn't have a scratch. The water seeped through our skin, revitalizing our energy, allowing the healing powers to heal our skin's lesions. Out of my peripheral vision, I caught a glimpse of glowing. About 30 feet away was the same gray wolf I bonded with earlier. My fear stayed calm while I stared at this magical creature. Our eyes locked as I suddenly felt warm inside. My eyes glowed flames of fire, while the wolf shone yellow. A connection of communication through telepathy began, but no words and thoughts were said. More like a feeling of knowing, similar to what Zeke and I shared. Mike noticed the wolf. Amber, we need to go, he gulped. The creature turned and darted away. Wait, I shouted as I ran after him. Amber, Mike barked, what are you doing? Awesome, more running. I ignored my husband's question. Curiosity had the best of me. I was chasing the wolf, and Mike was chasing me. I leaped over tree roots, pushing through the forest branches and grasses. The further we went, the thicker the foliage became. The sunlight peeked through the skyscraper tall trees. The snapping of the falling branches cracked under each stomp. Amber, slow down, Mike shouted. Then suddenly, I pushed through some low-hanging branches and stepped out into the opening. Up ahead, standing in front of a cave opening, was a gray wolf. Beside the wolf were two taller, older male figures holding rifles pointed directly at us. Great, I just led us into a trap.